Here's the most disturbing part of the Epstein files. None of this looks secret. The emails aren't tense, the messages aren't cautious, nobody sounds afraid of being exposed, they sound comfortable. And that's why these documents hit so hard. Quick note, subscribe and like if you want more deep dives like this. Now let's get straight into it. 10. The Epstein files didn't just expose names, they exposed the system. Before we even get to celebrities or billionaires, the files reveal something uglier. How badly the system still fails victims. The latest document release was supposed to be careful, controlled. Survivor first. Instead, names of victims briefly appeared unredacted. That forced emergency legal motions, mass takedowns, and quiet damage control behind the scenes. Thousands of files were temporarily removed, not because they were false, but because they were released recklessly. This wasn't transparency, it was panic. And it shows how even now, years after Epstein's death, the institutions handling his legacy still seem more prepared to manage optics than consequences. That context matters, because everything that follows sits inside that same culture of carelessness. 9. Woody Allen and Epstein's normal life. One of the most unsettling things in the files is how ordinary Epstein's relationships looked. Emails show him socializing, arranging dinners, and acting as a fixer for filmmaker Woody Allen and his wife, Soon-Yi Previn. No secrecy, no distance, no discomfort, just friendly logistics and casual coordination. There's no allegation of criminal behavior here, but that's not the point. The point is timing. This is after Epstein was already publicly known as a convicted sex offender. And yet, he was still being treated like a socially acceptable connector, someone who could open doors, arrange access, and smooth things over. That normalcy is the shock. 8. Me Too went too far, and the culture Epstein lived in. Then comes a single line that says more than pages of legal documents ever could. In private correspondence, Soon-Yi Previn reportedly told Epstein that the hashtag #MeToo movement had gone too far. Read that again? This wasn't said on cable news. It wasn't part of a debate panel. It was said privately to Jeffrey Epstein. That's why people reacted so strongly. Because hashtag #MeToo wasn't about celebrities losing roles. It was about exposing abuse that had been ignored for decades. And yet, in Epstein's social orbit, the movement was being dismissed as an overreaction. No crime is implied, but the mindset is unmistakable. This is the environment Epstein thrived in, one where accusations were inconvenient, accountability was negotiable, and reputations mattered more than harm. 7. Noam Chomsky and the illusion of moral distance. If Hollywood made people uncomfortable, academia made people uneasy. For years, renowned intellectual Noam Chomsky maintained that his interactions with Epstein were limited and transactional. The files complicate that narrative. Emails and investigative summaries suggest a relationship that went beyond donations. Discussions about travel, islands, and personal matters that don't fit the image of a reluctant associate. This matters because Chomsky represents something Epstein desperately wanted: moral legitimacy. Epstein didn't just surround himself with celebrities and billionaires, he attached himself to people known for criticizing power. That way, proximity itself became a shield. When someone like Chomsky is in your contacts, it makes you look less like a predator and more like a misunderstood philanthropist. That illusion was part of Epstein's survival strategy. 6. Reid Hoffman's passport and the problem of familiarity. Now to Silicon Valley, where the emails get almost surreal. LinkedIn co-founder Reid Hoffman appears in the files as someone who stayed overnight at Epstein's Manhattan mansion. Then comes the detail that exploded online. Epstein emails Hoffman saying he found Hoffman's passport inside a gift bag. Think about that for a second. This isn't a stiff professional exchange. This isn't, "We met briefly at an event." This is the kind of message you send someone you're comfortable with, someone who treats your home like a place where they can leave personal documents behind. There are no allegations of wrongdoing tied to this detail, but it reveals something far more damaging: how normalized Epstein was among people who shape technology, media, and culture. When tech leaders casually socialize with someone like Epstein, it forces an uncomfortable question. Was Epstein hiding in plain sight, or was he being tolerated? And remember, we're only halfway through the list. If this is already unsettling, hit like and subscribe now, because the next names on this countdown move beyond private dinners and awkward emails and straight into islands, intelligence agencies, and the highest levels of political power. Now, let's keep going. 5. Elon Musk and the island emails. Now the countdown turns combustible. Because this name isn't just influential, it actively shapes how the modern world thinks about technology, power, and the future. Elon Musk has repeatedly stated that he declined invitations to Jeffrey Epstein's private island and kept his distance. But the emails that surfaced tell a far more complicated story. In one exchange from 2012, Epstein asks Musk about helicopter logistics to the island. Musk responds casually, indicating it would likely be just him and his then-wife. Then comes the line that instantly set the internet on fire. "What day/night will be the wildest party on your island?" That doesn't read like a rejection. It reads like coordination. Supporters argue the message could be joking or flippant. Critics say the tone shows interest, and not resistance. Either way, it directly contradicts the public image of firm refusal. And it doesn't end there. In a later email, Musk tells Epstein he'll be near the British Virgin Islands over the holidays and asks if there's a good time to visit. Epstein replies with unsettling ease, "Always space for you." No crime is alleged, but credibility takes a hit. Because when private messages and public statements don't align, people start asking what else doesn't. 4. Donald Trump and the FBI tip ledger next, the files move into raw political territory. A newly surfaced FBI tip log includes multiple entries referencing Donald Trump in connection with Epstein-related allegations that were phoned in ahead of the 2020 election. Here's the critical context. The Department of Justice explicitly labeled these tips as unverified and unsubstantiated. That matters legally. But politically, the damage was immediate. The existence of a formal FBI ledger, even one filled with unproven claims, reignited scrutiny of Trump's past social proximity to Epstein in the 1990s and early 2000s. Trump has consistently denied involvement in Epstein's crimes and has said he cut ties with Epstein long before his arrest. Still, once a name appears in a federal document, the stain doesn't wash out easily. This revelation didn't prove guilt. It proved endurance, the way Epstein's shadow keeps resurfacing in American politics, no matter how many years pass. 3. The CIA director. Nobody saw coming. Then comes the revelation that made Washington go quiet. The files describe meetings and friendly exchanges between Epstein and Bill Burns during Burns' time as Deputy Secretary of State. Let that land. This wasn't a celebrity. This wasn't a donor. This was one of the most senior intelligence officials in the United States communicating with a convicted sex offender, years after Epstein's guilty plea. Burns has since said he regrets the meetings and insists he cut off contact once Epstein's background was fully understood. But the concern here isn't tabloid scandal, it's national security. Why was Epstein still able to gain access to figures at this level? What conversations were happening behind closed doors? And how many similar meetings never made it into emails? This revelation didn't just shock people, it alarmed them. 2. A British political investigation goes criminal across the Atlantic, and the story takes its sharpest legal turn. British authorities confirmed a formal investigation into Peter Mandelson, a powerful labor figure and member of the House of Lords. The probe centers on allegations that Mandelson may have shared confidential banking or policy information with Epstein during the 2008 financial crisis. If proven, this wouldn't just be embarrassing. It would be misconduct in public office. UK officials stress that the investigation is in its early stages and that no conclusions have been reached. But the fact that police are involved at all marks a shift in the Epstein story. This is no longer just about association. It's about whether Epstein became a recipient of state-level information and whether power was abused to keep him close. At this point, Epstein stops looking like a social parasite and starts looking like a liability governments failed to cut loose. 1. Bill and Hillary Clinton under oath. And finally, the moment that feels like a reckoning. After months of pressure, Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton have agreed to testify before the House Oversight Committee regarding their ties to Jeffrey Epstein. This is unprecedented. A former president, a former Secretary of State, both answering questions, under oath, about proximity to a sex trafficking network. Records already show Bill Clinton flew on Epstein's private jet multiple times. Clinton has denied knowledge of Epstein's crimes and says he never visited the island. But the significance here goes beyond any single answer. For the first time, Epstein's influence has pierced the highest political armor possible. Silence is no longer enough. Statements are no longer sufficient. They have to answer. On the record. If this countdown changed how you see the Epstein story, hit like and subscribe. Because these files don't show one hidden conspiracy. They reveal a world where power felt insulated, proximity replaced accountability, and Epstein wasn't an outlier. He was tolerated. And that may be the most disturbing revelation of all.